listening to Sports on Tap, part of the NEO Sports Insiders Network. Here are your hosts, Rob Troutman, Josh Jeffy, Ed Dick, and Sean Duffy.
And welcome to Sports. Welcome back to Sports on Tap. We are live from Studio J. We got Rob Troutman too busy to talk because he's Snapchatting. Ed Dick, Josh Jeffy, and I'm Sean Duffy. Gonna kick it off with a little bit of MLB talking. You know me, I'm a Tigers fan, and all these guys are Indians fans. So,
this man.
Because I am the minority, I'm going to allow this discussion to begin with the reigning American League champions.
I like how he's going to allow this.
Indians.
He's going to allow this conversation to happen.
Well, I have control of the mic right now.
That was pretty impressive that you took over like that.
Yeah, that's what I do, Rob.
That was,
sometimes I step
You
up.
wanted that.
You know
you
what?
wanted
You
it,
know
and
what?
you went for it.
You know what? Champions want the ball, is what I'm telling you.
Well, speaking
Wow.
of champions, we have our defending American League champion,
I mean,
Cleveland Indians. I'll say that again. Defending American League champion, Cleveland Indians. Now,
a 3-1 lead.
that's okay.
Well, okay. Whoa.
Yeah, you're right. The
All
Golden State Warriors
We're
blew it.
going to start like that, huh? Really? Let's talk about this 3-1 lead by
Let's
a
talk
team.
about it.
Let's talk about a 3-1 lead by a team who had no business being in the American League Championship Series, let alone the World Series,
With two home games.
Ding, ding, ding.
two healthy pitchers,
I'm not saying it's not impressive. I'm
playing
saying.
against the prohibitive favorite who probably should have won that game in that series in 5 games.
Well, they did.
I mean,
they just, they won the game in 5.
How many games has the Tigers won in the World Series recently?
3.
And how many times have they been there?
Twice.
So
The
they've
last
won
10
3
years.
games total in 2 World Series.
Correct.
The Indians
Ooh.
took
The
4
exact-
games to do
Yes.
that.
Wow.
Yes. I'm
Okay.
not disagreeing with you. We have the
Yeah.
exact same record in World
All right,
Series.
all
No,
right.
you don't.
Let's.
Well,
I
The
think
exact same
you've
amount
lost
of wins.
You've lost 8 games
I love
in
it.
2.
I love it. I
Instead
love
of
it.
4.
I love it.
It has
I love
nothing to do. This has no comparison, none, with the Warriors and the Cavaliers.
I never said it did.
Yes. Well, let's see.
They did.
They did.
They did not blow a lead. The better team came back
Okay.
and won.
Okay.
The Cubs were the better team going into that series. Would you agree with that or not?
No, their offense
That
was
is-
down. Their offense was down going into that series. We never got
That
a
is
chance to talk about
terrible.
this. Their offense was statistically
Because
down
of the
going into that,
pitching.
and it was
down.
down for the first 3 games that they took, or 2 over that course. Their offense was not producing
That's
for
because
4
their
games in the
offense
World
was playing
Series.
against pitchers who were somewhat healthy and not spent.
I'm not disagreeing
If you
with
had
that.
Corey
What I'm saying
Kluber-
is
if you
that
had Corey Kluber on regular rest in Game 7,
I agree with you.
Game over.
I agree with you. I'm not saying everything you're saying. I'm not disagreeing with. I'm just saying at a certain point you were up 3-1 with 2 games playing at your home stadium and you couldn't win. Correct or incorrect?
I mean, that's a fact.
Thank you.
I'll give you that.
There
but
it is.
You're just reciting something that already happened. Like that's.
I know.
Duff and Dick
There's
show.
no.
I like
Like
that.
there should be no.
That might
there's-
have to be a
There's
thing.
no shame
It's
in
gonna be-
losing to a
it's-
team that won 108 regular season games.
I'm not.
None.
Congratulations
You're
on
taking
getting
so
there.
much.
I'm
You're
just.
taking so much
Edwin
joy and
Encarnacion.
pride. And this,
Edwin
yeah, you
For
deserve
three.
that.
It was empty.
Yeah. Well, you're lucky it's not going to get emptied over your head.
All right,
Snap.
guys. I think let's take a breather. I think from now we can dwell on the past all we want, but that's going to get us nowhere. But
Right. Absolutely.
but nowhere. So let's look into the future. And I think we need to give props to the Indians
Up yours, Cubs.
for actually going out this offseason and making a splash. When's the last time we've heard them do that? Last
Yep.
time they did that was Michael Bourne and Nick Swisher.
And that was more of a blow.
Yeah, we were all excited about that one. But they went out and they got a really good left-handed reliever.
Hey, wait. Didn't they get a big bat? That's
finally-
unbelievable.
They finally
Finally
got
did.
Edwin Encarnacion.
Right.
Yes, because we were actually, I believe, live on the air when that news broke.
No, we were at a strategic meeting of our 14 when it broke. And
yes,
and
we
you
were
Facebook
right.
Lived
We were at a show meeting, and
Yes.
I could not say his
It was-
last name.
Several times.
And I
you couldn't
still
say it.
cannot.
You
I
just-
still cannot say
I
it.
think you stumbled on the first name this time around.
Edwin,
Yeah, on the first.
whatever.
At least you're equal opportunity.
You're
He's going to be
consistent.
good. People are concerned. He's got off to
It's early.
a pretty slow start. But
yeah, but if you
it's
look
early.
at him historically, last year his hot start was a bit of an outlier, and he was on a contract year last year, so he had to have a pretty consistent season. But throughout his career, he never really gets going until about end of May into June when he really starts coming on as a hitter. I mean, he has historically been a slower starting hitter, as the season comes out. Which again, if you're all those people that were worried that it wasn't money well spent, I mean, as a fan, as a guy who doesn't routinely cheer for the Indians, wait until June and July. You're going to be thanking this guy's presence on earth, because he's a big bat in the middle of that lineup, exactly where you need him. And now he can protect Kipnis. He can protect Lindor a little bit. He can even help out guys like Jose Ramirez. He can help out guys like Carlos Santana. I mean, that from now on, and like I said years past, and you guys can bring back the tape, you never had a lineup that other pitchers feared, and now you're starting to have that lineup. You're having guys like Jose Ramirez, I'm sorry, and Lindor and
Brantley.
And Brantley, but
Brantley's
again,
been coming along
he
real
has.
nice.
But again, it's almost like he's having a good day today. Hopefully, he doesn't turn and blow his knee out or something like that.
Well, we'll just preface that all by saying if Brantley remains healthy,
Right.
if Kipnis comes back healthy, and then you add Lindor, Ramirez, Santana.
No, it's a formidable lineup,
Yeah,
to be
for
sure.
sure.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is that right now you don't have Kipnis. He's on the 10-day DL, but he's due to come back either Friday or after the.
He was in
weekend soon.
AAA on a rehab assignment.
Yeah. Well, I have him in my fantasy baseball, and I get roster alerts, and they said best case scenario for Kip, he's coming back Friday against Chicago.
In Chicago, where
and
he's
if
from.
and if not, he may just wait till the next series after the White Sox series. I don't think they're going to rush him back if he can't come back by Friday. There's no point in having him travel all that way. But once you get him back, it's going to be a different story. Now, my concern, I think the concern for anybody would be, is not your bullpen. You guys got some young bullpen arms to go with Miller and Shaw and Cody Allen. I think, honestly, your starting pitcher's gotten off to a bit of a rocky start. I mean, one can assume that Kluber has gotten some wins, but he's given up some runs. His first outing, I think he gave up 5, and then against Detroit, the game I watched, he gave up 6 earned. Verlander gave up 9, which is a whole different story that I would get to. But yeah, it's a pretty. And Carrasco's kind of hit or miss. Bauer and Tomlin maybe are starting to kind of get where they are. But I was reading some areas on Bleacher Report, and they're saying if there was one need that maybe the Indians may look towards as we move throughout the season is acquiring maybe another starting pitcher, just to backstop any injuries or anything like that. But you still got Salazar, and you still got guys like that are. I mean, look, you guys are a team that won 108 games last year, and you basically lost Mike Napoli and added Edwin Encarnacion. So, and you didn't lose any pitchers, and you got great stuff. So you guys are in a very good position, despite maybe a slower start for a team that was pretty hot coming into the playoffs last year.
Ed Dick, everyone.
He's calmed down a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Since you're
Usually it's
you're-
Rob I get riled up on,
I know.
on Indians.
And we have
your
So my
slanderous account
Not slanderous.
of the Indians
my dad.
failures in the postseason.
There was no that was the only failure in the postseason.
Sean, we can actually say my dad is chatting with us on Sports on Tap.
God,
on
here
Max,
comes Bob.
and he said, "Duffy, go back to banking."
I don't bank. I'm
No.
not a banker. I just work for a bank.
All right.
He appreciates your Indians talk.
I'll tell you
though.
what. Lindor is off to a tremendous start, and Ramirez for that matter.
Mhm.
I mean, Lindor is looking like a viable MVP candidate. I mean, he's got power. He's got speed. He is the consummate 5-tool player.
Even Ramirez, for that matter. Again,
Absolutely, and you see what Ramirez is doing in his natural position, or one of his natural positions. I think he's a shortstop by trade. Actually, Lindor obviously took that spot. You see, middle infield is more or less where Jose Ramirez lives, and he's been able to really enjoy himself playing second base with Lindor. They came up in the minors together, and his offensive capabilities, his offensive prowess from last year have rolled over seamlessly to this year. Encarnacion, I'm not worried about him for kind of same reasons that Sean mentioned. I mean, he's still trying to get used to a new city, new home, new teammates, new surroundings, new stadium. You're going to be playing a bunch of different stadiums constantly now. He's used to playing in Baltimore, New York, Boston. Those are that crap hole in Tampa Bay that they play in. Now you're going to be playing a lot more games in the Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be, you're going to be seeing Chicago, Minnesota, Detroit, Kansas City, and it's not that he hasn't seen these teams before, but he's going to be seeing them a lot more now.
Right, with more regularity.
So I mean, I think Encarnacion will get it figured out. I mean, he's been averaging 39 home runs and over 100 RBIs for the last 5 years. He doesn't do that by accident, and he's not going to have that big of a drop off from his production. Boone Logan was a great signing for the Indians bullpen. They only had Miller there, for since last year, and we all know what kind of usage Miller had in the playoffs. It's not realistic to continue that over the course of the regular season, but it's also good to be able to backfill your bullpen with another lefty and be able to go with those lefty-righty matchups as you see fit. And I'm not really worried about the Indians starting rotation either. I think they're going to be fine.
I'm not worried about it. I'm just saying if there was an area that you may want to shore up outside of possibly another, bullpen guy or something like that, maybe another lefty if you can get it. But I mean, it wouldn't be the worst idea in the world if there's an opportunity to maybe send some, prospects to pick up a back end rotation guy. You know what I'm saying? And use him or maybe move Bauer to a bullpen if he becomes more erratic. Move him to a bullpen area and make him do long relief or something like that. Similar, didn't he do that last year for a while?
He started in the bullpen.
Right, and he came on towards the end of the year. So maybe that's how he has to be developed. I mean, obviously a starting pitcher wants to start, but, maybe he needs to work it out in the bullpen a little bit and then come back. So, I mean, trust me, as far as bullpen goes, I know I have my own issues with my team and bullpen. It's the same old song and dance, a different year.
Well, you have depth in AAA though. I mean, you have Cody Anderson, you have Mike Clevenger.
Yeah, I was just going to say Mike Clevenger, who
Ryan
had
Merritt,
all those guys have postseason experience that could be September call-ups that can provide.
Yeah, or again, you could make
mid-season acquisition,
mid-season call-ups, things like that. That could, if like I said, you got to go with your horses. I mean, you guys. You look at last year, the Indians going into the playoffs before all the injuries. You had Salazar, you had Carrasco, you had Kluber and Bauer, and who else? I'm sorry,
Tomlin.
And Tomlin. I mean, that was a pretty ferocious lineup. Now, 2 of those 3 got hurt. Tomlin pitched okay, but again, it's Tomlin. He's very erratic. He's not a very consistent pitcher, consistently dominant pitcher. Kluber is what Kluber is. He's gonna throw as best as he can. A guy like Bauer is, he may have a great outing, he may not, and that's just the way it is. And then you got Salazar back, but he wasn't really back. So this team is a bad break away from being a very dominant team last year and possibly winning the series 4-1 if they had one of those healthy arms. If Carrasco didn't get hurt, or if Salazar was ready to be a starting pitcher at the time of the World Series, I think we're talking differently about how that world. Not saying the Cubs may not have done what they did, but again, you give any team an opportunity to see a pitcher 3 or 4 times in a series, they're gonna pick. I mean, it's inevitable, and it was just a matter of time in Game 7. We're not gonna go back to that because apparently my joke did not go over well.
No, I think when you look at what happened in the World Series, I mean, to me, not having Carrasco was huge. I think he's a consistently good pitcher. He has a lot of good stuff. Tomlin, he's a good pitcher as well, but he has to get consistent. He's inconsistent a lot of times, and so far this season he struggled a little bit, giving up a lot of runs. But Kluber, his first start wasn't solid either. He gave up a decent amount of runs in his first game at Texas, but again, it's early on. These guys are still trying to figure it out. With Encarnacion's hitting, everyone's freaking out that, we wasted money and stuff. Dude, he's in a brand new lineup with a new team. He's in the Central Division instead of the East, so it's a little bit different, and it's going to take a little bit for him to get used to, pitching reports on some of these guys. But he's getting there, and some of these guys are just slower. to get started. I mean, look at some of these guys. I mean, Ramirez, though, he's come off and been an impressive hitter all around. That I was interested to see how he'd do this year because he just got a big contract for, I think, 4 years or whatever it was. And, now he has a contract, and he's still hitting consistently good, from what I've seen from last year. Lindor, we always knew he was a solid player. He'll be a superstar and probably the best shortstop in the game at some point if he's not already. The Indians behind the scenes are trying to get a big deal for him done. And really the rest of the team. Lonnie Chisenhall was hurt for a while. He came back, and he's added some nice clutch hitting. But overall, this team from top to bottom has a lot of talent. It's really too early. We got to remember these guys have 162 games.
And they're 2.5 weeks into the season for most of them.
Exactly.
And, I mean, like you look at a lot of teams around the league with the weather and everything like that. I mean, you look at a guy like, and I'm just taking this case by case, you look at a guy like Justin Verlander, he started the first game and then basically had 2 weeks off before his next start against the Indians. Like he didn't pitch a lot because he got postponed all the time. So, and that happens to a lot of these pitchers. So it's not really a fair gauge to a starting pitcher. And I think Tito Francona said, like, you really can't gauge a pitcher until he's had four or so outings, because at that point they've gotten into their rhythm, they've gotten into their long toss, things like that they get into during the season. So to evaluate a guy like Tomlin or Bauer over these like 2 or 3 starts right now is really not that fair, because again, the weather plays a factor a little bit now, especially where we are in this area, because it can be one night 40 degrees with rain and blowing, hail, and then the next day, 75 and sunny. Whereas if, you're in Arizona, it's the same thing every day, day in and day out. So, I think a lot of these pitchers are going to come around. I think actually, if I'm looking at everything, I'm thinking Josh Tomlin is probably, we're going to look towards the end of the season, say he probably had the biggest turnaround going for it. Barring an injury, I think he's got the most to gain from from being where he is in that rotation, because he's not being asked to shoulder a big load. So, he may just be able to go out and do what he does, and that's maybe, he's not a guy that's going to get a lot of strikeouts. He's going to put the ball in play, and it requires defense, and I think that's what the Indians are built for, to play good defense behind him, and that's what they do. Sometimes.
No, I mean, if you look at what's going on in Major League Baseball right now, I mean, no one's really gotten off to a dominant start either. It's been pretty even throughout. I mean, right now the Astros and Duffy's Tigers and the Orioles are your leaders, but they're only 8. We're looking at 9-5 for the Astros, 8-5 for the Tigers, 8-4 for the Orioles. Yeah. Even if you look at the National League, same thing. I mean, you got the Rockies and the Diamondbacks are 10-5, both out in the West. I doubt that's going to hold up, because Los Angeles and San Francisco are just too good teams.
When you got Kershaw and Bumgarner in that division, I mean, look, I don't care how down a game Kershaw or Bumgarner has, they're still the same pitchers. They can still reach back and find it, because that's why they get paid the amount of money they do and why they have the results that they do. The Rockies got off to a hot start, but we see it all the time. It's such a long season.
That's what happened with, the White Sox started out pretty hot last year.
And everybody was like, oh, the White Sox, can they be beaten? And where did they finish? Like almost dead last in the division.
Yeah, they were not very good. I mean, the key for not just the Indians, but really for any team that has hopes of contention right now, is to not get too far behind the 8 ball. I mean, it's very cliche to say you can't win the pennant in April and May, but you can sure as hell lose it.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the Blue Jays; they are 2-11 right now.
Yeah.
Now there's obviously it's only 13 games in the season.
Yeah, with their firepower in their lineup and their pitching, it's just.
I wonder how people feel about Mark Shapiro up there now.
They didn't want who was it? The president before him.
Yeah,
they were pretty upset about that. That's for sure.
I mean, they're Canadian, so they're tempering their exhaustion with waffles. I mean, it's hockey playoffs right now, so they don't care. They don't care.
That's
about
fair. I mean, Toronto is up 2 games to 1 on the Washington Capitals right now. So
the Blue Jays might as well be playing, Canadian football. They do not care. The hockey season until a Stanley Cup is issued, they do not care.
Well, it's early right now, and it's still fun to talk a little bit about the Indians.